funny that it's Essendon player testing positive or something, isn't it?
Pull your finger out of your ass.
Jeez.
This is my first ever football jumper. My three votes, I should say. My three goats. My three votes for Charlie. Oh, top of the world, mate.
What a time to be alive.
I look a bit like Nickel Bellic from GTA 4, I feel, with this.
That could get dangerous. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 73 of the Pressure Point podcast. Week 2 of the finals were played over the weekend. The two semi-finals, one of them in particular was arguably the game of the season, if not one of the best finals that you'll ever see, between the Brisbane and the Bulldogs. That was some sort of match, wasn't it?
It was unbelievable. And is there any coincidence that the Bulldogs have been in probably two of the best finals we've seen recently? If you go back to the 2016 Prelim against the Giants and now again against the Dogs, against the Lions, sorry. It was an unbelievable game and came down to a 1 point deficit, so it was great.
Yeah, great game. We'll get into it a bit later. But before we start, I like your growth as well. You're growing a little beard. It's probably the first time on this podcast that you're getting a bit of growth. I like it. So bit of a lockdown thing.
That's by choice, not due to I've chosen not to grow it out. Yeah, no, we're in lockdown, grow it out a little bit. I've had some good feedback, so just keep it going and we'll see how long. I don't think it'll get much longer than this, to be fair. I'll probably just keep trimming it from here on out, but no, it looks good.
How long is it now that you've had it growing for?
I'm not sure. I give it a trim once every couple of weeks, just to, tidy it up a little bit. Don't let it get out of hand, so it looks. I've got to keep looking handsome. Yeah. I've got an identity to maintain.
And you got fans that follow you. So
that's it. I've been called out in public a few times now, so I've got to be looking my best at all times.
Yeah, I love it. Keep it growing. It looks good.
Thank you.
When I first saw you tonight, I was like, oh.
Well, the shaved head as well. I'm getting that Adam Saad look about me if I keep growing it enough. So.
Bit of Adam Saad, even a bit of Heisenberg about you as well.
We'll stick with the Saad one.
All right, let's talk footy. That's what we're here for.
Please.
Let's talk about the first semi-final that was between Geelong and the Giants on Friday night. Bit of an interesting. The first half was a bit dull, bit dour, low scoring, and then Geelong sort of kicked away in the last quarter. And I don't know, you never felt like the Giants were ever in that game, did you?
No, not really. And in saying that, though, probably wasn't until that last quarter that I thought they were out of the game, if that makes sense. I didn't think they were in it, but I didn't think they were out of it either, probably until that last quarter where Geelong really got on a roll. But yeah, I think Geelong's experience and the Giants' injuries hurt them, and Geelong just took it away and did what most probably expected them to do and bounced back. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Giants having Toby Green out, which a lot has happened between our last episode and this one with the whole Toby Green thing. For those of you who missed the news over the last week, Toby Green ended up getting a 3-game suspension, which is going to be appealed by the AFL. They don't think it's enough. So essentially, he's cost his team a win in that game. They will never win in that game without Toby Green, in my opinion. So absolutely not. I don't think so at all.
Yeah. So staying on the Toby Green theme, though, Joel Selwood did a very similar thing to what Toby Green did a few weeks ago with the elbow to the face, a bit of a fend off that Toby Green did to Dangerfield, and Selwood does it, gets nothing for it.
Well,
so, I mean, not surprised
I don't want to sound
either.
Salty, but I'm not surprised at all. I feel like Joel Selwood especially, but Geelong seem to have a rule that none of the other clubs have. And I was watching the Daisy and Heather show, and Heather Shaw made a good point. He goes, if you ask someone from another country that's never seen the game before and show them those two incidences and says, what's the difference? There's none. No difference. They've just gone on the result because Dangerfield went off he went to hospital, but he played the next week, so he was fine. So, do we go by the result or do we go by the act? It should be the act, not the result.
Absolutely.
For mine. Yeah, that's what I think. Anyway, so I don't see how he can get off. Where's the consistency? And there's obviously a rule for Toby Green that the rest don't have. And look, as much as you want to see people avoid doing those things, you've got to be consistent. I don't want to see players be suspended, but if you're going to suspend one, you've got to suspend the next guy.
Yeah. I feel like this whole Toby, we're probably confusing ourselves here. He's been suspended twice in this time that we're talking about. That one, the elbow against Dangerfield, that's the one where he got suspended for a week.
Yeah.
Fair enough. There's probably a Toby rule there because Selwood does the exact same thing and gets nothing. But the one he did last week where he shouldered an umpire, there's no Toby rule there. You just can't do that.
No, the umpire one's fine.
Yeah.
The umpire one's fine.
So
although people were also arguing that a couple of years ago, Tom Hawkins smacked an umpire's hand away from him and got nothing. I think it was a week, or I think he might have got 1 week or didn't get anything or something like that. Or very minimal, and that was all he got. Whereas Toby Green's done something, and now the AFL are going to the tribunal and said, no, we want more than this.
I just think it's the way he's made a beeline for the umpire. It's not a great look at all.
No, it isn't at all. And I agree that the fact that he had to be suspended, I think there has to be a little bit of consistency. Do you take Matt Stevics, that's the umpire for those that don't know, do you take his word into anything where he said that at one point did he feel threatened or that Toby did it maliciously? Does that get taken into consideration? That Matt Stevic didn't feel threatened or insulted by
absolutely. But
it's still done the wrong thing,
exactly.
For sure.
It's still he still did it in a pretty aggressive and disrespectful way.
Yeah.
Which counters anything that Matt Stevic really says, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you can't walk up to someone and do that. If I did that to you in the hallway, walking up here, you'd be like, what are you doing?
This podcast wouldn't be happening, mate.
Exactly. But that's what I mean. Like you can't do that and not be aggressive or disrespectful or derogatory.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So anyway, enough of that. Back to the game on Friday night. Yeah, Geelong were way too good, and the Giants, their season's done. Had Toby Green out. Tom Green was also out, so they had two big outs, and
a few others as well. Like Finlayson wasn't playing.
They've had a tough
Jesse
season
Hogan
with injuries.
play.
Yeah, Hogan was laid out. Yeah, so they were never really in the contest, and Geelong move on to the prelim to play Melbourne, so that's going to be a massive game next week. Very much looking forward to that.
And I think this is Geelong's 15th prelim in 18 years or something ridiculous like that. So that they're just, come on, guys. When are you going to go on the decline?
That's enough. As a Carlton supporter, seeing that sort of record really, really makes me jealous. But surely their time to just plateau a bit and not play finals 1 or 2 years is coming.
Just give us that.
Surely.
Give us something.
They just need, I think I was saying to you before off air, if they win the flag this year, does that mean a lot of their older players start retiring?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if someone like Tom Hawkins, Joel Selwood, then Isaac Smith, Sean Higgins, those kind of guys all did. But then again, do they get the taste for it and go, we'll give it one more crack? You just don't know.
A lot of those blokes have already won 2 or 3 as well. So
exactly.
Isaac Smith's won 4, 3? I think 3.
I think it's 3.
3, yeah. And then Hawkins, Selwood, they were a part of the old dynasty. And then I think it's Dangerfield's the one that doesn't have the premiership and is desperate for it. So
yeah, absolutely. But he's probably got another couple of years anyway, I think. So
but
regardless.
He's on the wrong side of 30. So they're all getting there. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens after this season. As we touched on before, the other semi-final on Saturday night between Brisbane and the Bulldogs was one of the best you'll see. What were the highlights? Charlie Cameron was unbelievable early. 3 goals in the first quarter.
Well, he kicked 5 the week before, so you just saw that and you thought, geez, he's on again here, Charlie. He gets the crowd going, the team, he pumps them all up, and he was looking unstoppable at one point. And he had a few chances throughout the game as well where he had one-on-ones and he was just outburning his opponents and just didn't get on the end of as many as he would have liked after that. But he was fantastic. Yeah, huge.
And then Zach Bailey was great for the Lions. And then you look at the Bulldogs, you got Jack McRae, who's an absolute superstar, racks up the foot. I think he had 5 possessions in the first 2 minutes of the game. So he was on fire. And then Bailey Smith, huge with that goal at the end and kicked 3 goals for the game as well. So it had everything this game. It was great to see. It was a great spectacle.
And like you mentioned, Bailey Smith, he kicks that goal, that clutch goal, and then Zach Bailey gets it up the other end for the Lions and kicks another one, ties the game. And you think, geez, what is happening? You just couldn't pick a winner in that one. And it was a rush behind of all things that
I thought it was going to be a draw, and that would have been very cool to see.
I don't think I've seen one before in a final.
Port Adelaide West Coast, I think 2017. Luke Schuer kicked it after the siren.
Actually, yes, that's right.
That was in extra time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have seen one then, but not for. It's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
But it would have been unreal to see that. But obviously, like I said, the rush behind was what separated the two teams, and devastating for Brisbane. It's the second time in 3 years they've gone out in straight sets after having a top 4 finish. Does something need to change there? Because they've won one final out of their last 5. I think one final they've won and they've lost 5, and the one was last year against Richmond. Does something need to change at Brisbane? Can they just not play finals, or has it just been bad luck?
They can beat the top teams.
Because you look at these ones. They lost by a point to the Dogs. In 2019, they lost to the Giants by 3 points. So then he just lost as well. Do you count these as just unlucky losses because it could have gone either way, or is something not right?
But then you look last year, they had the home prelim against Geelong in that COVID season where all the games were in Queensland. That was their best chance to do it, and Geelong smashed them in the prelim last year. So I don't know. And then Melbourne even touched them up last week too. So I think it's just like they're a great team, but they're not great enough to beat your top 2 teams, I think. Because the Bulldogs are a top 2 team. They were all year. I think they're better than where they finished.
Oh, absolutely. They're not a fifth on the ladder team, for sure. They should have had that double chance, and I really think they needed this win on the weekend to justify their season. Because otherwise it's almost a waste if you go out, that early in the finals after finishing, fifth, but you probably should have finished second or arguably. It would have been disappointing for them, so they'd be pretty stoked to get the win and find their way into a prelim.
Can they do 2016 all over again?
Oh, I mean, they said it on the commentary on the night. They're kind of giving us those 2016 vibes, aren't they, where they're just coming out of nowhere and looking like they could do it. I don't think so, but what's to stop them, I mean, like we said before the podcast as well, Bulldogs have given us the 2016 vibes, but then Melbourne have given us Richmond of 2017 vibes where they did the same thing as us. So I think it's really still anyone's game at the moment. And the Bulldogs could. I mean, why not? They'd be believing in themselves right now.
Yeah, for sure. Back on Bailey Smith, Baz Lenker, his left foot goal from the boundary in the last quarter to put him in front was huge. That's as clutch as it gets, and his celebration, the ice in the veins.
A bit of D'Angelo Russell about it.
It was so good.
It really depends on what generation you're from in terms of how you interpreted that. Because the young kids today would be thinking it's that that people have been doing. And then, your other sport fans like ourselves would know that was a basketball reference. And then some of the oldies now are thinking it's a COVID jab reference. Which his Instagram didn't help.
No, I think, I mean, you think at that with 2 minutes left, he kicks probably the winning goal. He's thinking about doing a COVID jab sign.
Absolutely not.
No, so it's clearly an ice in his veins symbol, which is what Russell does in the basketball. But I think he carried on a bit, like he did it for a good 5, 6, 7 seconds, didn't he?
Yeah, it went for it lasted. Mind you, though, the Brisbane crowd were flipping him off, giving him the bird. I'd be doing it as well. Like that just fires you up as a player. You see the opposition giving it to you after you've just at the time you probably thought he'd buried them and won the game for them. Yeah. Not knowing Zach Bailey was going to equal it 2 seconds later, or not 2 seconds literally, but not long after. Of course, that would have fired him up even more, I think. Yeah.
No, I loved his Instagram post afterwards about the get vaxxed. That was good.
Get vaxxed. Well, he's got the platform to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said this as well to me before we recorded, that how many young kids up there will look up to Bailey Smith, see that and go, well, makes a point.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope it triggered a lot of anti-vaxxers as well. It was good.
Well, it needs to. It certainly the conversation.
Did. So a lot of them sook up about it. So
a lot of people weren't happy. Well, you know what? If you want to go watch the football and see people at Bailey Smith play next year, we're going to have to get it.
Exactly. So anyway, let's not get into it.
Yeah, we don't get political here in the Pressure Point podcast.
But I'm just glad he did that post.
It was good. And it put a bit of humour into it as well.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Shall we preview the prelims?
We shall.
Yes. Prelim final weekend. That some say, I don't say because I don't know, but a lot of fans say this is the best weekend to be a footy fan when your team's in it.
It's the purest weekend of football, I believe, the prelim final. It's because you know what's on the other end of it. And I think once you're in a grand final, there's almost that sense of we've made it, so win or lose, it's been a successful year, win or lose. Whereas the prelim, it's sort of like, you know what's on the other end of it, and you're so close to making the grand final. It just makes it such a pure weekend of football. Personally, I think so. I've had some good times and some bad times in prelim finals, personally, being a Richmond supporter, but I'm really looking forward to this weekend. I think we're in for an absolute ripper. Absolutely. And Friday night, no better start to the weekend than Melbourne and Geelong at Optus Stadium. It's going to be this, I feel like this has got the markings of that Brisbane Bulldogs semi-final. I feel like it's going to go right down to the wire. Melbourne being the best team all season, they've got the superstars in their team, and then you've got Geelong, who the experienced players, and also with their superstars and players that are desperate for that premiership. I feel like it's going to go right down, especially what happened in the last round where Geelong blew that 44-point lead against the D's. I can't see that happening again. I don't think that Melbourne will let themselves be blown out like that early on in the game. I don't think that'll happen at all. I reckon it'll be right down to the wire, like you said. And I mean, the last one did finish down to the wire with a goal after the siren. So I reckon we'll be looking at something pretty similar here. And it's almost disappointing that these two couldn't play off in a grand final, because they're probably the two favourites at the moment. I think a lot of people are under the idea that whoever wins this game will win the premiership. Obviously, that's not necessarily the case, but it would look likely. And I think for myself, I reckon Melbourne can just get the job done. I think, like I said, they're just everything's going right for them at the moment. all their players and all the right players are in form. How many people in their team made the All-Australian this year? Like, just everyone's firing. Everything's clicking for them at the moment, and I reckon they'll get the job done. And I really hope they do as well. It's been such a premiership drought for them. I'd love to see them, after all the heartbreak they've been through. It's a good footy story, I think, for them to win this one.
Yeah, for sure. It'll give us all hope, all us Carlton supporters out there. If Melbourne can do it, and like Richmond can do it, the Bulldogs can do it. It'll certainly help. But I don't know. I've just got this sneaky feeling that I think Geelong are going to win. I think they're going to be reeling from that round 23 game against them, and I just feel like they've got a lot more finals experience in their team to get it done. You saw what they did. Brisbane were favourites against Geelong in the prelim last year, and Geelong smashed them. So something similar could happen here. But part of me wants to see Melbourne get there because it's a fairy tale and everything. But I have a lot of Melbourne mates, and if it was the other way around, they absolutely wouldn't be saying that to me. So for that, I'm going Geelong.
Do you think, and I was thinking about this earlier, because it's a bit of a young versus old, this game, because Melbourne, all their stars are fairly young in terms of Petrarca, Clary. I'm lost for players now, but Max Gawn. Max Gawn's not old. He's not young, but he's not old either. He's sort of that middle-aged sort of bracket, I guess. But a lot of their stars are still on the younger side, whereas Geelong's obviously on the other. And you saw after the game last week with Geelong that Tom Hawkins, he's grabbing his hamstring, Paddy Dangerfield with his sore hand. Yeah. Tom Stewart's obviously injured. Not that he's really old either, but he's not going to be there.
There's talk of they're trying to get him up for it.
Yeah, well, I did hear that. I don't know if that's a good idea or not.
But it's if he's the difference between winning a premiership, that do it.
But how well do you perform when you're not physically ready to be there? You know what I mean? It's a tough game, AFL footy, and I mean, look, if he thinks he's right and doctors tick him off, then by all means bring him back. But I don't know. I think the injury, from what I've heard, he should be out longer than this.
Absolutely. If it was during the season, he'd be absolutely rehabbed properly. But
yeah, for sure.
I think it's because it's a prelim and there's grand final potentially coming up.
They
might roll the dice with it.
And then do you risk not playing him, hoping that you win so you can play him for the grand final? But you might not make it. That's a gamble you got to take, I guess. So I mean, that'll be up to obviously the Geelong doctors and Tom Stewart himself. But do you think the fact I was talking about before? Do you think the fact that some of these guys are a bit older and pulling up a bit sore after these tough games, and they come up against a younger Melbourne side who are probably a little bit fitter, they recover quicker. They've had the week off. I don't know. I think it might help them, their younger bodies a little bit, because finals footy is tough footy. But like you said, Geelong's experience also comes into play. So it's going to be an absolute belter of a game.
You look at Geelong's forward line and Melbourne's defence, it's going to be an unbelievable battle. You got Hawkins, Jeremy Cameron, Radaglia up against Stephen May, Jake Lever. It's going to be one hell of. I think it's going to be won or lost in that area.
And I think one of the difference makers could be Gary Rowan.
Yeah.
Only issue is with Gary Rowan, his finals performances have been stereotypically poor.
Yeah.
He hasn't performed well in finals for the most part, but you know that when he's on, he can absolutely tear a game apart because he is that difference maker. You got Hawkins and Cameron as your main two targets. If Radaglia is down there as well, he's another one. But Gary Rowan sort of goes under the radar a bit, and he's quick and he knows how to find the goals. So if he can have a big game, he could cause a lot of havoc for the Melbourne defenders. But it just depends whether or not he rocks up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a great contest. Really looking forward to this one on Friday night. So winner to go straight through to the grand final. The other prelim, we've got Port Adelaide and the Bulldogs at the Adelaide Oval on Saturday night. This one is going to be just as good, especially with the way the Bulldogs played on the weekend, and then Port Adelaide doing an absolute number on Geelong the week before. It's going to be a good one. I mean, that Port Adelaide crowd's going to be vicious over there as well.
Tell you what, it's I haven't been, but it doesn't look like a fun place to be. Adelaide Oval, when you're the opposition team, I would not want to be on the ground if I was the Bulldogs players. I mean, it looks, devastating over there, but it's going to be an absolute ripper, like you said. Both teams are flying at the moment. Bulldogs definitely bounced back after the little form slump late in the season, and they've definitely come back strong. And like we said before, every chance to make it to the big dance. So why not? But I think Port Adelaide will be remembering their prelim final loss last year at home. And I just can't see them letting it happen again. Yeah. They arguably should have won that prelim last year. They lost by only 6 points, so they were so close. And I can't see them letting it slip 2 years in a row. Prelim, home, when you got the home prelim in Adelaide and you're Port Adelaide playing the way you are, it's a tough one to lose. So it's their game to lose at the moment. And I think they'll just get the job done, but I reckon it'll be really tight because the Dogs are great.
Yeah, I think Port, they've had the week off. They're in their home stadium. The Bulldogs with the Bont potentially carrying an injury there. Didn't look great. And then Cody Waitman's out with concussion. It might make it real tough for him, but it would not shock me if the Dogs did get up, though, in another nail-biter.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely, it's just that's the thing. It could go either way, and that's the best part about finals football is you really don't know. I think the one thing that'll hold Port Adelaide in good stead as well is their backline, because you look at the Dogs and with Bruce injured, and like you said, then Waitman out as well. It makes the Bulldogs forward line a little bit less threatening, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, there was talk about Jamara potentially coming in this weekend, but that would be tough on the youngster to come in for a prelim.
And do you bring him in over Shaki, who he didn't do heaps yesterday, but he kicked that good that goal, an important goal, and the week before he played well. Yeah. So can you really drop Shaq, or do you play both of them?
I don't know. Bevo's done some interesting things this season at the selection table, so
he could go for that tall forward line and bring Shaki. I forgot his name now. I've already forgotten. Jamara. And Aaron Norton.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the other one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
You can go all three of those boys in the forward line. That could cause some trouble for Port. So, selection will be very interesting this week for all sides, but especially the Bulldogs, I think.
Yep. Who's your tip?
Port.
Yeah, Port. Yeah, Port as well. All right, that is the finals. That is the prelim finals. Sorry, it's going to be a great weekend, as Quinn said, the purest weekend of footy.
It's a little bit bittersweet, I think.
Is it weird for you not being there? You've been there the last 4 or 5 years.
I thought it would be, but it's actually not. I'm actually really looking forward to it. It's not stressful at all. I'm looking forward to just watching some great games of footy. Obviously, you'd rather be there. That's that'd be silly to say otherwise, but no, it's not actually too bad. I'm not minding just kicking back.
What is the build up to a prelim final weekend like as a supporter?
Depends. If it's your first one that you've seen, it's nothing you've ever seen. It's sort of
like nervous, excited, everything.
Yeah, it's more. I was more nervous for the prelim than I was the grand final. If we're talking about 2017, which is the first one, and I think that's because, like I said earlier, once you've made the grand final, it's like, you know what, we shouldn't even be here. We're here now.
Yep.
If we win, it's a bonus. If we lose, it's disappointing, obviously, but we made it. Whereas the prelim, you just want to get there, and it's so nerve wracking, and you're in for a good game of footy for the most part. I mean, most prelims are relatively close that you see these days. So it's it's pretty exciting, but also very nerve-wracking at the same time. But no place you'd rather be at this time of the year.
Yeah, I can't wait to experience that one day. That's for sure. Very jealous. All right, well, that is us done for this episode. It was a short, sharp one with only the games are starting to get down to 2 on a weekend now, which is a shame. And then we've got the bye after the prelim final weekend as well. So next week we'll review the prelims and then preview the grand final, obviously after the bye, and review the Brownlow as well, which will be on, I think it's a Sunday night this year.
Which will be interesting. That'll be good.
Yeah. So not sure how players, it's probably going to be a virtual event, I'd say, for a lot of them. I think it'll be
fairly similar to last year. Hopefully someone is allowed to present the Brownlow medals with their medal this year.
What happened last year?
I think Lachie Neale took it off the podium. It was just laying there and he had to pick it up and put it on himself.
That's right, yeah.
Which was, I mean, there's Brownlow medalists that live in Brisbane. Someone could have been there to give it to him. It didn't have to be last year's medalist. It could have been somebody else. Like Simon Black could have given it to him.
Yeah. They like to do the handover, don't they?
Yeah. That's presuming that Blackie actually lives in Brisbane. I
think he does.
That.
He does. Yeah.
But, there was people there that could have done it. It didn't have to be off a podium. It looked a bit silly for mine. So hopefully someone can actually present it to him, but we'll see how we go.
Yep. All right. Well, that is us done. As we say every week, make sure you like, subscribe, share with your mates. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. See us all there. Enjoy prelim final weekend, the best weekend of footy, and we'll chat next week.